Oh my god, hey. Ever since I started doing interviews here on YouTube, there has been one performer I have been determined to sit down with and terrified to ask at the same time. Whether you know her as one of the most prolific alumni of Les Miserables, as the original Veronica Sawyer in the London production of Heathers, or for her extraordinary YouTube channel, you have probably heard of Carrie Hope Fletcher. Right now she's starring as Calamity Jane here at the New Victoria Theatre in Woking as part of the production's UK tour, and ahead of seeing the performance this evening, we sat down this afternoon in her dressing room to talk about returning to the stage post-motherhood, a shift in the roles that she's been playing, and of course, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cinderella.
I'm very excited.
I'm excited and nervous. It's with considerable enthusiasm and just a little bit of terror that I say, oh my god, hey, Carrie Hope Fletcher.
Hello, I watch your channel, I love it.
Thank you so much. I mean, we've all been watching your videos for years now, and this is something I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to lead with this because I think there are so many performers now, because of TikTok and because of Instagram, who are pulling back the curtain on their lives as performers. And it's something that you really led the charge with, I think.
It's funny because I don't remember the beginning of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I remember being really excited to just make more vlogs when I got into Les Mis and it was like a new thing to do. But I wasn't really thinking of it as like a new thing. But now that I look back, maybe. Yeah. But it's so cool. Like, I literally love watching theatre, like people who do what I do, especially like on Broadway, because I don't know what Broadway's like. I don't know that experience. I was just sort of typing in the other day going, Broadway vloggers, how many are out there? Who can I watch? What shows are they in? So it's great. I love it.
Yeah. Do you ever watch your old stuff back from previous contracts to get to relive being in those shows?
You need to give me some time before I go back and like relive. But yeah, every now and again, I especially sort of go back and I've got to the point of watching the Cinderella ones now. Like, it's been, how long has it been? Like 3 years? I'm like, yeah, you give me 2-3 years distance from a job and I'll start reminiscing.
Does that feel like an entire lifetime ago now? Yeah. I mean, so much has changed for you personally.
Yeah, and also it was like COVID times. So when I think back to my like earliest memories of Cinderella, they're all like of everyone, like the whole cast in masks, everyone having to be 2 meters distance, having, what were they called? Like a COVID manager who'd be there with like a 2 meter ruler, making sure everyone was stood 2 meters apart. And that feels like a lifetime ago. Yeah. Like, the world is so different now. So thinking back to that it feels like a weird fever dream. Yeah.
We'll circle back to that chapter because there are so many things.
There's so much.
So many things I want to ask. But before we move beyond the world of YouTube, is there something with so many performers now starting to do this and revealing more of themselves? Is there anything you would caution people about, or any sort of words of wisdom from your experience?
Yeah, I think I would always urge people to be a little bit more cautious with what they share, because from someone who shared literally everything from the age of like 18 onwards, I think it's not necessarily that I was sharing too much. It was in the ways that I was sharing things. And I was sharing everything as soon as it happened and not actually giving myself any time to sort of process things before I told that story. So yeah, I think if you're going to tell a story, give it a little bit of space after it's happened before you tell it, just so that you make 100% sure that is a story that you want to tell however many hundreds of thousands of people, because it is a lot of people to let into your life. And I am a natural oversharer. I don't think I ever won't be. And that's kind of how I like it. I like being that way, and I like the things that I share, but I also like the fact that I'm a little bit more cautious now, and I do take a little bit of time for myself to process something, and a little bit of time just to make sure that is definitely something that I want to let people have an opinion on. Yeah.
From a professional perspective, we've heard rumbling, and I think you've spoken about this briefly before, about that being in the contract. If you're someone who is going to bring social media exposure to a show, that being part of the contract. And I think there are a lot of performers who maybe are offering a lot to the benefit of social media teams, but aren't necessarily being brought into that conversation from a professional perspective.
Yeah, I think it completely depends on what the producers are like on a show. Yeah. There's still some very old school producers out there who still to this day don't quite understand how social media works, the benefits of it. And there are some producers that do understand that it's massively beneficial, but don't actually know how to utilize it. And so therefore, that's when you see like really awkward TikToks from certain cast members, or like cast as a whole doing things where they all look a little bit, I don't know if we should be doing this, or I feel a little bit awkward doing this strange dance that we all learnt 10 minutes ago, just in the hopes that it gains some, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. So yeah, I always think that if you just let the cast have free reign of, you know, you're allowed to use the costumes, you're allowed to use the set, you're allowed to use the songs or whatnot, that's when you get like the most authentic footage and the most authentic content, and you can see that the cast are just having like a genuinely really fun time with it. As soon as something looks forced, I feel like everyone can just feel the awkwardness.
So right now we're here at the New Victoria Theatre in Woking, which if people don't know, you can access via a shopping centre as part of the novelty of this building. We were saying you were here before years ago in the Addams Family.
Yeah, 8 years ago. And it's all changed. As soon as I walked into stage door, I was like, everything's around the wrong way. It's strange what you remember. But it's nice being back in a familiar theatre.
Yeah. Is this close enough that you get to be a little more connected to family as well?
I'm staying at home this week, so I'm just right. It takes like 40 minutes to drive, so it's a bit of a no-brainer. But it's a nice one because we've just had 2 weeks off. So to sort of like ease back in, I'm still at home, still staying at home. So, you know, not too far away from family.
Yeah. Was this something that, did this role come as a surprise to you, or did you always have the intention, I will go back to work and I will be back on the stage? Is that something you had planned?
It's a little bit of both. I always intended to get myself back onto stage towards the end of last year. But I didn't know what was going to, you know, rear its head. I didn't know if there was going to be, because, you know, you can have all of the best intention in the world and nothing comes along and you're like, great, I'm taking an even longer break than I expected. And that could have happened. But yeah, I got the email from my agent to say, Calamity Jane, ? Is this a conversation that we can, you know, potentially start? And that was November 2023. So that's a long time ago. And at the time I was, you know, heavily pregnant. I was doing panto in Crawley. And I was like, yeah, let's, you know, start the conversation. Because I think for me, I wasn't really thinking that far ahead because I knew that rehearsals would be starting the following December. That was a long time in advance to start thinking about it. But for me, I was like, December, I would have done my own tour a couple of months before that. So that's maybe like a nice run up to something a little bit longer, sort of dip my toes in the water before starting an even longer thing. Also see how my daughter takes to being on the road because I took her with me. See how my husband is, you know, does being away from us and, you know, coming to join us for bits and pieces of it. And how he fares on his own with Mabel as well. Because that was the first time I ever had a night away from her. It was terrifying and very sad, but, you know, you find ways through it. But yeah, Calamity Jane was definitely a bit of a surprise of a role, because I'd thought about it in the past purely because my mum has always said, I'd love to see you as Calamity Jane. So when the email came through, it was the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh, my mum will be absolutely thrilled. But yeah, I mean, the more I sort of, because I'm very new to Calamity Jane, I didn't really watch it as a kid. My Howard Keel movie of choice was Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Sure.
Another classic. Yeah. Questionable in the world of 2025, but, you know, have to watch it through an old lens. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very new to the world of Calamity Jane, but the more I, you know, watched the movie and read the script and sort of got myself into the world of Calam, she's got everything. She's a romantic lead. She's funny. She's, you know, boisterous. She also gets to wear a nice dress. She gets like the you know, the two very different sides. She gets some cracking character songs as well as having the amazing ballad at the end of the show. Like, it's literally everything. And she ticks all of the boxes. So it was kind of a bit of a no-brainer. Yeah, yeah.
Have you felt a shift in the roles that you've been playing since Cinderella? And was there any sort of impatience for you to maybe start playing sort of grown-ups, really?
Yeah, I think Cinderella was probably the last teenage role that I can get away with playing. I think Veronica even was still, you know, on the cusp. She was pushing it because I was 25 playing a 17-year-old who very explicitly sings about being 17 as well. Whereas Cinderella, I could, you know, sort of get away with maybe fudging her age because we never actually mentioned how old she was meant to be. But even then I was like 29 playing a late teenager. So yeah, I think my days of playing a teen are over. But yeah, no, it's nice playing an older role. And I think I'd be really interested now because I've played a mum before I was a mum. And, you know, it's acting, you can, you know, make people believe that that's what you are and that's who you are and, you know, you're, you know, feeling all of those feelings that a mum would feel being away from her daughter and, you know, finding out that your daughter's sick and all the things that Fantine goes through. Yeah. But I'd love to play a mum now that I am a mum. I don't think I'd get through a single show without bawling my eyes out. That would be the danger. But yeah, I'm really interested to sort of play more maternal roles now that that is something that I'm actually going through myself.
Yeah. There were a few I really enjoyed getting to watch you do that had a sort of a maternal connection, even if they weren't necessarily mothers. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of the Caucasian Chalk Circle.
Grusha, yeah.
I'm thinking of the Witches of Eastwick concert, which was so great. And it was a lot of roles that you surprised me in, simply because it wasn't what we'd seen you do before on stage.
And I think that's the fun of, like, when I came out of Cinderella, I was like, I want to do something completely different now. Because it's, you know, I stayed in that job for a year, just under a year. Wasn't meant to be just under a year, but it was. And yeah, it was, you know, Cinderella's very sort of close to Wednesday and Veronica. They kind of all have that same sort of like teenage, feisty, bit kooky, angsty sort of vibe. So yeah, playing Grusha was really different. And, you know, Witches of Eastwick actually came before that. So playing, you know, something that's just as quirky, but a little bit older and, you know, maybe a little bit dark as well. And, you know, it was great, really great. Witches of Eastwick, I just want that to become a full production. I feel like now is the time. If we need like a female sisterhood, you know, defeating the patriarchy type musical, it's now and it's that one.
Oh, yeah.
I really want Witches to come back. But yeah, Grusha was really interesting because, like she said, she wasn't actually a mother herself. And the whole show posed this question about what actually makes a mother. Yeah. Is it, you know, nature, nurture? Is it someone who is blood related? Is it the person that you call mum even though she isn't your mum? It was, you know, a very deep show. But yeah, unlike anything I'd ever done. And it was 3 weeks long. Mm-hmm. It was 6 weeks rehearsal for half the amount of shows. But it was brilliant and in a great theatre as well. The Rose Theatre is a really wonderful one, and they produce some really high quality stuff as well. It's just a shame that it's just a little bit outside of London, so it does take, you know, a decent train ride to get there, but it's worth it.
It's worth the visit, yeah. Thinking back to that Witches of Eastwick concert, was there a moment getting to play the scene that you had with Chrissy Beamer, who was set to be the next Cinderella before everything happened?
It kind of felt like fate that we ended up on that job together, because the first thing we did was we walked in and just gave each other a massive hug. Because it's not the way that anyone wants to find out that you've lost a job, and lost a job that you hadn't even started yet, and that maybe you gave up other jobs in order to play that role, to then find out that you actually don't get to play that role, and it's too late to take on any of the other stuff that you had lined up anyway. So yeah, we definitely had a little moment together in rehearsals to have a chat about the whole thing. But it really did feel sort of like fate had sort of brought us together to have that week of doing, I can't believe it was only a week, but I had to have that week of Witches of Eastwick to, you know, sort of dust off the cobwebs of Cinderella a little bit. Yeah.
And then getting to sing Loose Ends with Maria Friedman
at
the curtain call. Magic.
I mean, I cried my way through it. And are there videos of it? I hope there's a video of it somewhere.
I think I have a video of it somewhere.
Oh, you need to send that to me.
I close my eyes, I fade to black. I hide my face, I turn my back. And there are these loose ends to deal with. Loose ends.
But yeah, oh my God. I mean, I grew up watching Maria Friedman, especially on the Joseph DVD. I used to watch that over and over again. I love that woman. And it was a shame because she got COVID the week that we were doing the rehearsals. We only had a week to rehearse that show. And she got COVID literally the day before we started. So I think it was her PA was like just holding the laptop with her on Zoom. And she'd be like, can you just take me over to stage left? I need to go to stage left, darling. He'd just sort of trot over to stage left with this laptop. It was the wildest thing I've ever done. And luckily she was fine and, you know, testing negative by the time the show happened. So got to sing with her. But yeah, oh my God, that was a proper like bucket list moment to be able to sing an iconic song with Maria Friedman, with Dana, who wrote the song, like sat on stage with us. Like, who gets to do stuff like that? Magic, actual magic.
Yeah. Talking about those bucket list moments and dream roles, you've done something quite interesting, which is you've returned to a lot of the shows you did as a young performer, then as an adult. Is there any inclination to tick off Mary Poppins? and do. I think you'd be a lovely Mrs. Banks.
Mrs. Banks, yeah. I think the older I get, the more Mrs. Banks feels sort of what I'm more suited to. And I love her song that she gets. And I feel like I wish it was just a little bit longer, was like its own standalone song. Being Mrs. Banks is such a beautiful song. But maybe one day, maybe. I auditioned for Poppins when I was like 21, which was a ridiculous idea. That was one of those it's good to be seen auditions where you know you're not going to get it. And I was in the middle of playing Éponine as well. So I walked in and was like, practically perfect, trying to sing soprano when I was like larynx in my boots.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But yeah, maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But
what about Madam T? Is there a Madam T down the road?
I mean, if Cameron will have me back to be Mrs. T, 100%, I would love to get the hat trick.
You have to round out the bingo card.
Exactly, I know. The only one I'd be missing is Cosette, but who wants to play her? I'm kidding.
Let's dive in then to the world that was Cinderella at the Gillian Lynn. My question, I suppose now...
You just got the one question?
Well, no. There's so many things that I would ask, like, was it really true that this happened or this exact circumstance of this? But
I'm ready.
The thing I'm most curious about now, I think, is so many years beyond it and really an entire lifetime away, what is the emerging relationship to that time and the biggest takeaway, maybe?
The more I get distance from the job, the easier it is to feel fond of the memories that I do have.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot that I've forgotten as well. I actually ended up sharing a dressing room with Gloria and Georgina Castle when we did Magic at the Musicals. And there was stuff, and we all ended up talking about Cinderella. And there was stuff that Gloria was like, oh, do you remember when this happened? And I was like, oh my God, I completely forgot that was a whole, 2 weeks of our lives where that thing happened. And, it all, we had to wait to find out how it was going to play out and, back and forth emails between whoever was involved and whatnot. It's like, oh my God, I just completely deleted that from my brain, probably to protect my mental state for a while. But yeah, the further away that I get from it, the easier that it is to sort of look back and just be very grateful for the people that I met and the good times that I had, because doing the show was a blast. Like, doing the actual performances, we laughed so much and we had such a fun time. There were such amazing moments in the show, like singing I Know I Have a Heart in the round with the audience, spun round, and it was fun. It was just all of sort of the backstage politics that made it really hard to get through. And, we all sort of felt that sort of, oh God, I gotta go to work today type feeling, not knowing what was awaiting us. Because, every sort of 3 days there was a new fresh hell. Yeah. But yeah, doing the show was fun. And the more the longer it gets away from the job, the more I can look back and go, actually, all of those things are more important than all of the rubbish.
Yeah. Were there red flags early on that you now can identify after the fact that should have been warning signs?
Aren't there always in a toxic relationship? Yeah, and I think at the time I didn't realise that they were red flags until we were in too deep. And I looked back and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should have paid attention to that a little bit more. Maybe that should have been more of a conversation when that happened. Yeah, I remember when we were 2 days opening from the previews, and we just decided to rework the opening number, completely scrap the opening number that we had, and we spent 2 or 3 days of tech just redoing the opening. And I was like, we have not finished taking Act 2. I don't really feel massively safe. And we hadn't finished Bad Cinderella as a number as well. Uh-huh. So I was like, we get to a certain point in that number and I'm just going to have to park and bark, because I have no idea what happens past that point because we've not finished it. So yeah, there were lots of things that happened like that. Maybe if I'd paid a bit more attention and maybe sort of flagged it with company managers or agents or whatnot. But you never know, you know what I mean? No. Everything's lovely in hindsight, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Is the silver lining of that whole chapter the relationships with the other performers as well? Because so many amazing talents who quite quickly afterwards all got to go on to great things. Lauren getting to go into Matilda, you're working with Vinny again on this show. I just saw Jess Curtin go on as Fraulein Schneider in Cabaret. I mean, there were so many talents. Georgina Castle.
And Georgina Honorer.
Oh
her career has been unreal since she left Cinderella, and it's so deserved because she was phenomenal. And there were so many times when I used to have this armchair in my room that I used to call like my safe space, because everyone used to come in and just sit down in the armchair, and I swear it was magic, because they'd just go, oh my God, and just like pour out, and I'd have like, you know, people quite high up within that world come and sit down and just sort of start talking. I was like, this armchair needs to go in a therapist's office, because it'd do them wonders. It really would. Yeah. It's wasted in my room, because I just sit here and go, I don't know how to help. But the amount of times that Georgina would come in and she'd be like, do you know what's going on this week? Do you know what shows we're doing this? I have no idea. Do you have any idea? I have no idea. And we'd end up just sort of like comparing schedules, trying to figure out who was on when and why, and drama. But she is so phenomenal and just such a wonderful person.
Oh, she's lovely.
Oh, isn't she just the best? Yeah. So to see the career that she's had since, it's just so deserved.
Yeah, and getting to go from show to show like, oh, but I can also do this, and I can do this. Oh, but I didn't tell you, but I can do this.
She's shown how versatile she is in such a short space of time. And again, it's just so deserved.
One of the defining, I suppose, dramatic moments of that time came right towards the end, with the letter being read out at that performance, and you have a reaction in real time in that clip, as does, I think, Lauren Byrne is the other one down the line, where it's not a poker face by any stretch of the imagination. Is that, because I think I reacted to it as well, and then sort of a little after the fact, I went back and I was like, was it just a poor choice of words, or did it betray something more sincere?
Oh, who knows? Who knows? I think we can all agree that it was a poor choice of words, regardless of, what was behind it and what it meant or whatnot. I think there's a lot to be said for like the choice to read it out. There's just so much about it. My main concern was Ivano at that point, because Ivano was so young when he started that job. It sounds very patronising, but I also remember how I felt when I was Éponine, being 20 years old, and you feel like the baby of the cast, and you really do sort of need the sort of protection and guidance of the older people of the cast around you at those points, whether you know it or not. And I had Ivano's arm around me, and I was like holding his hand as best as I could, like here, and I could just feel his heart suddenly like go when that got read out. So I literally was like, are you okay? Are you all right? Are you okay? Are you sure? Are you sure you're all right? Because I feel like I'm going to cry. So my main concern was just making sure that Ivano was okay, and I knew my face was betraying me. I knew it was, but I was like, at this point, I don't care. I'm going to go get very drunk after this. I've booked in at the Ivy down the road. I'm going to go for a really nice meal with my mum, dad, and my boyfriend at the time. And I'm going to go have several glasses of wine, and that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah. And then a little while down the road, I think this is my only other pressing question about the whole thing, Panto happened.
Yes.
And it was the two dinosaurs... Lloyd and Webber, and I have to know whether that came. To do with it. That was my question.
I was where was I? I was on holiday in between Cinderella ending and doing Panto, and I got the script through, and I was sat in Disney reading this script, and I was like, oh my God, they've called the dinosaurs Lloyd and Webber, and I had to tell all of my family. But I thought it was genius and very funny, and I took great delight in saying that every night.
Yeah. Was it a joy getting to sing Hellfire?
Oh my God, isn't it just one of the best songs ever?
I remember sitting in that audience and thinking, she's loving doing this song.
I mean, it's a Disney song that I just didn't think I'd ever get to sing, because it's a male song, it's a villain song, I didn't know I'd be playing.
You as Judge Claude Frollo, who knew?
I mean, do you know what? I mean, it's coming back. I'll give my best Frollo if they need me to. So singing Hellfire was great. And who gets to sing Hellfire with two velociraptors behind me, and guys like flinging fire around? It was great.
Yeah, I consistently have people watching who don't understand pantomime, and I think this has only added more questions rather than answers.
Yes, true.
But in any case, you find yourself now touring with the Deadwood Stage in Calamity Jane. You started last month.
Yep. Yeah, we've been on the road for a month now, and then we had 2 weeks off, which was lovely. But yeah, oh my God, it's just so fun. And it being an actor muso show as well is something I've never really done before. I did once for like one concert, 2 shows in a day. So, I didn't really get a taste of what it's like to do a show like that. But it's fascinating. And it was a really fascinating rehearsal process as well to, see how it works when you've got a cast who are all playing the instruments. And the level of talent on the stage around me, and the like focus that everyone has to have, but also the fun that everyone has, because it's just I get to sing these songs whilst looking at a cast of people who are actually playing it. And it changes very technical things like the sound. It changes very sort of practical things, like, where everyone's got to stand and whether people can actually do the choreo and whether they can move about as easily. All of that changes. But it also changes the dynamic on the stage between everyone, because you really have to listen to each other more than you would if, everyone was just stood there silently behind me whilst I sang a solo song, you know what I mean? Yeah. I now actually get to see people take a breath before they play the next chord, so I know, I can follow them more easily, and it just changes the dynamic of a show, but brings everyone together even more than I thought it would, in such a wonderful way. And also getting to work with Vinny as well. That was this is our hat trick. This is our third job together. We did the stage concert of Les Mis, Cinderella, and now this. But this is the first time playing opposite each other. And I tell you what, intimacy calls with someone that you know are far harder than they are with a stranger. Yeah. I laughed into his mouth in our intimacy call as I was about to kiss him for the first time. Just laughed straight into his open mouth. Yeah.
It's the reaction everyone wants, I think.
Yeah. He felt really special after that. But yeah, it's far harder having to do intimate scenes with someone that you've already got a friendship with. It'd be so much, I said to him, I was like, it'd be so much easier if you were a complete stranger, because you can just kind of get to know each other as the characters before you get to know each other as people. But because I already know you, it's so weird. And we were, he was at my wedding. I was invited to his wedding, but didn't go because it was the day that I found out I was pregnant. So, sure. It's a very strange dynamic when you're on stage with someone that you've got a really strong friendship with, when you're friends with who they're married to as well. It's just bizarre. But it kind of means that we started our on-stage relationship as if we'd already been doing the job for like a year. Yeah. So it's been really special doing this job with Vin. He's great. Yeah.
It sounds like a real treat you're bringing to audiences around the country.
Well, we hope so anyway.
Yes. We're seeing it tonight. Yay! I cannot wait. I am so excited to see you in the show. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you for coming all the way here to, be in my dressing room before it got messy.
Beautiful right now.
Yes, it's pristine. Yeah. I'll pretend that it stays like this, but I'm like a goldfish. Yeah. I grow to the size of the bowl you put me in. Yeah. So if you put me in a dressing room, it doesn't matter how small or big it is, it will be a mess by the time the week is done.
Amazing. So lovely to meet you.
You too.
Break a leg for the week in Woking and for the rest of the tour.
And keep making amazing videos because I'm always watching.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to this interview, and thank you to Carrie and the company of Calamity Jane for letting us come and chat. Make sure to book your tickets to see the show at a theatre near you, and stay tuned for more interviews coming very soon. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day. For 10 more seconds, I'm MickeyJoTheatre. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!